All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Organizepreneur podcast. I'm your host, Aldreama Harper, and I just want to thank you for joining me today. I want you to go ahead and get out your notebooks. Okay, get out your notebooks once again because I'm going to be talking about something, of course, that I believe, and I hopefully you believe as well, that's worthy of taking notes for. Okay, and so we're going to have a real heart to heart, if you will, conversation about what it actually takes to stay ahead of the game long term. Okay, long term.
In the podcast jungle with a mic and machete, Aldreama Harper, she ready and steady.
So I was
Organizing right now
scrolling
with a
through a
plan,
Facebook
never
group
petty. Dropping gems,
and
got my thoughts
for
feeling heavy.
podcasters, and this was the
Podcast
other
launch
day,
pad where the dreams take flight.
and I saw a
Entrepreneurial
question
spirit
that
now
really
set
kind of
out
caused
of
me to
mind.
pause, right?
Every
And
episode,
so
knowledge taking flight.
in one of the questions was, well, there were several questions, but the question was, um, when you were starting your podcast, what was the hardest part? Was it finding the right equipment, figuring out the recording space, or was it your branding? Okay. And so as I, went through the comments and, I saw just a few answers there. Um, but the main thing that was kind of interesting was that people were kind of going back and forth over what kind of microphone to buy. Which is it, a $200 microphone? Is that the best microphone? And people are stressing out over Mac versus PC, agonizing over weeks for the hex codes for their cover art. And so I just kind of shook my head because I guess I gotta tell you that those things, that's not what causes podcasters to quit. And at least it shouldn't be anyway. I mean, that's not going to get you the kind of uh, uh, um, that's not going to last long term. I guess that's what I'm saying. The hardest part of starting a podcast is not the microphone. It's the invisible labor. The invisible labor. Okay? That's what happens the second you hit the stop button on the recording. You think about the invisible labor. I actually call it, and you've heard me call this the same thing over and over and over. If you've listened to my podcast before, you've heard me say this. I call it the Frankenstein stack. And it's the season where you want to, or you got excited about the new show, okay? But your operations just are held together by duct tape. And you might be tired of me talking about this. You might be saying to yourself, Aldreama, you talk about this all the time. It's because I see it all the time. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Maybe you finished a great interview and then the nightmare begins. You wait 45 minutes for this massive video file to download from Zoom. Okay. You upload it to your Google Drive, right? And you just open up your editing software. Maybe you barely understand it. So you bounce over to Canva and to make a graphic. You open up a blank Google Doc and you kind of stare at it for a moment. Like, okay, what do I do next? Okay. Hmm. You're trying to remember what you even talked about so you can maybe write the show notes. I mean, I know this from experience. I've done this and I've shared this with you. When One of the podcasts that I launched with my former business partner, and we have over 400 episodes out there on Spotify. But at that time, I was writing the show notes manually. I was writing the script. I was trying to figure out the titles. I didn't know anything about SEO. I wasn't, chasing how many downloads. I wasn't doing any of that. And I'm not saying that you should chase downloads. You should probably look at them, but not chase them. But that's not even my point. My point is you were doing so many things manually. And then you look back and you think, okay, now I've just 3 to 5 hours of my time just got taken away from me, right? So if that's your current, excuse me, excuse me, if that's your current reality, then guess what? You are not a media CEO. You're not. Essentially, what you have done is created a job for yourself as an admin, as a volunteer admin at that. And so on your because on your own show, and that right there, the exhaustion, the dread of feeling I don't have time for this. That's the reason that podcasters burn out and quit by episode 10. I mean, the reason that I was able to get through 400 episodes is because I had a business partner, even though I was doing one aspect of the podcast, but it was, you know, uh, um, a dual effort, right? It's the only reason that we lasted 400 episodes because we were actually doing these live recordings 5 days a week. And so I tell you, it got to be very exhausting, but we alternated. So that was, kind of helpful. But I just think to myself, you know, stop worrying about things that don't even matter because you can have a successful podcast without spending a few $100s on a mic. You can do that later once the podcast becomes, it's starting to make you money, right? And so if you've been listening to my podcast, you've heard me say this also, that content may be king, but operations is the kingdom. That's a writer downer again. Okay? So you did not start your podcast to live in the weeds. Not you don't need to live in the weeds of the manual data entry. That is an admin job. So you started your podcast to share your brilliance, to build your authority, to serve your audience. So today I want to challenge you to make a shift. I want you to stop obsessing over the gear and start obsessing over your pipeline. Okay? When you replace this Frankenstein stack with an automated AI driven media pipeline, everything changes. Everything changes. You can use one tool to record, transcribe, host, distribute, create show notes in one tool, just one. And so you want to look at your pipeline, obsess over that. Okay. And so you use what I call an AI mega prompt. You can call it whatever you want, but this is what I do. And so I use one tool for all of those things, I create my own mega prompt, AI mega prompt, and I paste that inside of my studio, my Riverside studio. And guess what? It writes my show notes and everything that I need in about 30 seconds. All I'm doing is copying and pasting. And that's all you have to do. So obsess over that. And this is how you get your time back. More importantly, you protect your peace. That's the message that I'm trying to get to you. So if you are an established service provider or creator, or maybe you own an agency and you have a service based business, whether you're a coach, a consultant, or you serve other clients in that capacity, and you realize that your time is way more valuable than anything on this planet. Your time is more valuable than money. Okay. And you're tired of spending all of that time doing post production admin work, pre production admin work, and production admin work. I want to help you because here at the Organizedpreneur Studio, we can help you with that. We don't just edit your audio, we don't just edit your podcast. We install the entire automated machine so that you can show up and speak. So, if that's something that is of interest to you, then there will be a link in the show notes where you can book a complimentary discovery call with me. I want you to stop the burnout. I want you to stop obsessing over equipment. I want you to stop obsessing over the non essentials and get your pipeline in order. Get your time back. And remember always, it's about doing all things decently and in order. So protect your peace. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you on the next episode. Be blessed.
Keep it hustle tight. All dreamers got the wisdom, breaking it down.